That winter night, I stood shivering before my son's door, my stomach empty, my pockets emptier, hoping for a bowl of rice, a corner to sleep in. I knocked, my hands trembling, expecting Jonathan's arms to open wide. Instead, his eyes were cold, his voice sharp. "You're old, Dad. Figure it out. This isn't your home anymore." The door slammed shut. I sank to the ground outside, hunger gnawing, my heart bleeding. I had fed him with these calloused hands, raised him through sweat and sacrifice. Yet there I was, left to starve at his gate. But he didn't know. Years later, I would be the one feeding his hungry children in their darkest hour. This is my story of betrayal, survival, and the bread that outlasted their cruelty. I was Samuel Turner, 71, a farmer who tilled the earth for decades, my hands worn from planting and harvesting. My wife, Ruth, was my light, her warmth my home until illness took her 5 years ago. Jonathan and Emily, my children, were my pride, raised with love and lessons of hard work. But Jonathan, 42, grew wealthy and cold, his heart set on money, while Emily, 39, followed his lead, her eyes distant, seeing me as a burden. I lived simply in our small town, my name tied to fields I worked, my word my bond. The bad harvest came like a storm, wiping out my crops, my savings gone. I trudged to Jonathan's house, my body weak, my voice soft. "Son, I need help." He scoffed, his door half open. "You're too old to lean on us." Emily's house was no better, her voice sharp through the gate. "We have our own lives, Dad." I stood alone, the cold biting, my stomach hollow. Mrs. Allen, a neighbor, saw me curled up by the road, her eyes wet. "Samuel, this ain't right," she said, pressing a blanket into my hands. I nodded, writing her kindness in my mind, my heart breaking for the children I raised, now strangers who left me to the night. The town's pity was heavy. At the market, folks who once bought my produce turned away, whispering, "Samuel's broke, abandoned." The local paper mentioned my plight. Farmer falls on hard times. I wanted to scream, to tell them my children shut their doors, but their glances were cold, my name tarnished. I slept in alleys, my body aching, my heart heavier than hunger. I thought of Ruth, her gentle smile, our nights planning for our family. Would she see me like this, discarded? I wrote her name, a spark of hope, my resolve alive. I was Samuel Turner, a man who fed his family, and I would not let their betrayal starve my spirit. Where are you listening to this story from? Drop a comment below to share your thoughts. My journey through hunger and betrayal showed me that love can turn cold, but resilience feeds the soul. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to join me for more stories of heartbreak and the triumphs that rise above cruelty. The winter's bite was merciless that night. Jonathan's cold dismissal. "This isn't your home anymore," cutting deeper than the frost as I huddled under Mrs. Allen's blanket, my stomach hollow, my heart heavier than hunger. Emily's words stung just as sharp. "We have our own lives, Dad." I sat outside Jonathan's gate, my hands trembling, my notebook filling with their betrayal, each word a wound I traced in the dim streetlight. The town's whispers followed me to the market, their eyes sliding away, their voices low. "Samuel's broken, left to starve." The local paper's brief mention was a knife. "Farmer falls, abandoned by family." I wanted to scream, to tell them my children shut their doors, but their pity was a tide, drowning my name in shame. Jonathan's cruelty grew bolder. At a church supper, his voice carried over the crowd. "Dad's too old to fend for himself. He's a weight on us." Emily stood beside him, her silence a nod, her eyes fixed on the floor as I lingered nearby, my coat worn thin, my heart pounding. I wrote it down, their betrayal a blade carving into me, my notebook thickening with their scorn. Neighbors who once bought my potatoes and corn turned away at the general store, muttering, "Samuel's a burden now." Even old friends hesitated, one saying at the town square, "It's tough, Samuel, but your kids made their choice." I wrote it down, his pity a wound, my resolve flickering but refusing to die. The town's judgment was a constant weight. I shuffled through alleys, my body weak from hunger, my hands clutching the blanket as I sought shelter under a shop's awning. Mrs. Allen saw me, her voice soft. "This ain't right, Samuel. You don't deserve this." She slipped me a loaf, her eyes wet, but others kept their distance, their whispers sharp. His own kids don't want him. I tried to find work, my voice steady at a feed store. I can haul sacks, mend fences. The owner shook his head, his voice cold. "You're too old, Samuel. Times have changed." I wrote it down, his rejection a sting, my heart aching for the fields I tilled. Now as distant as my children's love, Jonathan's lies spread like frost. At a farmer's market, he spoke loudly, his voice sharp. "Dad's living off the past, dragging us down." Emily handed out flyers for his business, her silence deafening, her eyes avoiding mine as I passed by, my steps slow, my stomach growling. I wrote it down, my hands trembling, my notebook filling with their disdain. The town's pity was relentless. Children pointed, their parents whispering, "Poor Samuel, left to rot." I tried to stand tall, offering to sweep a barn for a meal, my voice calm. "I've worked harder than this." The farmer scoffed, "You're done, Samuel." I wrote it down, his words a wound, my resolve a flame that refused to fade. I moved from alley to bridge, the cold seeping into my bones. My body curled against the wind. The nights were heavy, my notebook my only companion as I wrote the pain of Jonathan's wealth, Emily's complicity, the town's rejection. I thought of Ruth, her gentle smile, our nights planning for our family, her hands warm in mine as we dreamed of a future for our children. Would she see me like this, discarded, starving outside their doors? I wrote her name, a spark of hope, my resolve unbroken despite the hunger gnawing at me. Jonathan's scorn persisted, his voice loud at a town meeting. "Dad's a leech, begging for scraps." Emily nodded, her silence a betrayal, their words echoed by neighbors. "Samuel's nothing now." I tried to stay visible, walking through town, my head high despite the stares. At a community fair, I offered to carry crates, my voice steady. "I can still work." A vendor smirked, "You're too weak, Samuel." I wrote it down, his scorn a blade, my heart steady. Jonathan's cruelty reached me through a neighbor, his voice sharp. "Dad's a failure, shaming our name." Emily agreed, her silence heavy as she handed out business cards, her eyes cold as I stood nearby, my hands empty. I wrote it down, my pen a weapon, my chest tight with the pain of my children turning my life to ashes. The town's pity was a chain, their whispers relentless. Samuel's just a ghost now. The hunger was cruel, but the loneliness cut deeper. I sat under a bridge, my notebook open, my pain raw. They left me to die. Jonathan thought he had won, his wealth blinding him to the father he cast out. Emily's silence was her consent, her betrayal quieter but no less sharp. The town saw me as a shadow, their pity a weight I carried daily. But I was not done. I was Samuel Turner, a man who fed his family through decades of labor, and I would not let their lies starve my spirit. My notebook was my witness, my resolve a foundation stronger than the hunger they left me with, my heart anchored by the truth they tried to bury. The winter's chill lingered in my bones. Jonathan's cold dismissal, "This isn't your home anymore," and Emily's sharp words echoing as I curled under a bridge, my notebook heavy with their betrayal. The town's whispers cut deep, their voices low at the market. Samuel's a burden, left to rot. I refused to break, my hands clutching Mrs. Allen's blanket, my heart clinging to a flicker of resolve. Jonathan's scorn grew sharper, his voice loud at a church supper. Dad's begging for scraps, shaming us. Emily's silence beside him was a blade, her eyes avoiding mine. I wrote it down, their cruelty fueling me, my pen steady as I faced another hungry night. Mrs. Allen found me by the road, her voice soft as she pressed a warm loaf into my hands. "You're worth more than this, Samuel," she said, her eyes kind. "Mr. Brooks needs help at his bakery. Go see him." I nodded, writing her words, my chest tight with gratitude. At the bakery, Mr. Brooks, a gruff man with flour-dusted hands, looked me over. "Can you sweep floors, haul sacks?" he asked. "Yes," I said, my voice steady, my hands ready despite the hunger. I started that day, sweeping, carrying flour, my body weary but my mind alive. The town scoffed, their voices sharp at the diner. "Samuel's a janitor now?" I wrote it down, their doubt a wound, my resolve burning brighter. I worked late, my hands learning the bakery's rhythm, scrubbing counters, hauling bags under Mr. Brooks's watchful eye. "You're reliable, Samuel," he said, his voice gruff but warm. I nodded, writing his trust, my heart steady. Jonathan heard of my work, his voice sharp at a market stall. "Dad's cleaning floors, embarrassing our name." Emily nodded, her silence a sting, her eyes cold as she passed by with her shopping. I wrote it down, their disdain fueling me, my notebook filling with their scorn. Neighbors whispered at the general store, "He's too old for this." But I kept going, my hands steady, learning to knead dough, my skills growing as Mr. Brooks showed me the basics. "Pinch it like this, Samuel." The town's judgment was relentless. A shopkeeper who once bought my crops turned away, muttering, "Samuel's done for." I wanted to scream, to show them I was still here, but their pity was heavy. I thought of Ruth, her gentle smile, our nights planning for our family. Would she see me now, starting over? I wrote her name, a spark of hope, my resolve unbroken. Jonathan's lies spread, his voice loud at a town meeting. "Dad's a failure, scraping by," Emily agreed, her silence deafening, her eyes avoiding mine as I delivered bread to Mrs. Allen's porch. I wrote it down, my pen a weapon, my heart aching for the children I raised, now strangers leaving me to starve. Mr. Brooks gave me more tasks, his voice firm. "Try shaping this loaf, Samuel." I learned fast, my hands steady, my mind alive with purpose as I molded dough, my fingers finding a rhythm I had not known since the fields. Mrs. Allen stopped by, her voice warm. "You're doing good, Samuel. Keep going." I nodded, writing her encouragement, my hope flickering. The town's whispers persisted. Children pointed, their parents muttering, "He's just a baker's helper." But a few lingered, their eyes curious. "Samuel's bread smells good." I wrote it down, their shift a spark, my resolve a flame. Jonathan mocked me at a community fair, his voice loud. "Dad's playing with flour, wasting time." I wrote it down, his arrogance a mirror to my determination, my work a quiet rebellion. I poured my heart into each loaf, my hands shaping crusty rolls, my spirit lifting with every tray I pulled from the oven. Mr. Brooks noticed, his voice gruff but kind. "You've got a gift, Samuel." He taught me recipes, my hands learning to bake sourdough, my purpose growing. The town's scorn softened slightly, some neighbors buying my bread, their voices hesitant. "This is good, Samuel." I wrote it down, their nods a lifeline, my heart steady despite Emily's disdain, her voice sharp to relatives. "Dad's a nobody, working for pennies." I wrote it down, my pen steady, my resolve a tower stronger than their lies. The bakery became my refuge, my hands shaping a future, my heart carried by Mrs. Allen's kindness, Mr. Brooks's trust. The town's whispers turned to curiosity. "Samuel's baking now?" A few regulars came daily, their voices warm. "Your rolls are the best, Samuel." I smiled, handing them bread, writing their words, my hope burning brighter. Jonathan's scorn persisted, his voice weak but cruel. "He'll fail, like always." I wrote it down, my heart heavy but firm, my hands steady as I baked through the night. They thought they had buried me, their rejection final. They were wrong. I was Samuel Turner, a man who fed his family through labor, and I would feed myself again. My notebook a map of their betrayal, my heart anchored by those who saw me when my children turned away. The bakery's warmth was my refuge, the scent of rising dough a shield against the cold memory of Jonathan's rejection and Emily's silence. My hands, once calloused from plowing fields, now kneaded bread with steady purpose, each loaf a piece of my resolve. Mr. Brooks watched, his gruff voice soft. "You're more than a worker, Samuel. You've got heart." I nodded, writing his words in my notebook, its pages thick with the town's shifting whispers and my children's scorn. Customers filled the shop, their voices warm. "Your bread's the best, Samuel." I wrote it down, their nods a spark, my heart steady despite Jonathan's mockery echoing from a market stall. "Dad's playing baker, embarrassing us." I worked harder, my hands mastering sourdough and rye, my mind alive with the rhythm of baking. Mrs. Allen stopped by, her smile bright. "You're feeding the town's soul, Samuel." I nodded, writing her encouragement, my hope flickering brighter. The town's whispers turned to praise. "Samuel's bread is special." Mr. Brooks called me to the back one day, his voice firm. "You're head baker now. This shop's yours as much as mine." I smiled, my heart lighter, writing his trust, my resolve burning as I baked through the night. Each loaf a quiet rebellion against the betrayal I carried. Jonathan's farm supply business crumbled, his debts piling up, his arrogance fading. Mrs. Allen whispered, her voice low. "Jonathan's losing everything. His kids are going hungry." Emily's life unraveled too, her family struggling, her silence heavy with shame. I kept baking, my hands shaping rolls, my heart anchored by the town's growing respect. Neighbors crowded the bakery, their voices warm. "Samuel, your bread keeps us coming back." I wrote it down, their support a balm, my resolve a tower. Jonathan scoffed at a town meeting, his voice weak. "Dad's just a baker, nothing more." I wrote it down, his desperation a mirror to my strength, my work a shield against his lies. Mr. Brooks offered me a stake in the bakery, his voice gruff. "You've earned it, Samuel. Let's expand." I nodded, my hands steady, my heart swelling as we planned a second shop. The town buzzed, their voices shifting at the diner. "Samuel's bread outshines Jonathan's business." I wrote it down, their respect a wave, my hope burning brighter. Emily's disdain persisted, her voice sharp to relatives. Dad scraping by, shaming us. I wrote it down, my pen steady, my heart aching for the daughter I raised, now a stranger undone by her own coldness. The bakery thrived, my hands guiding each loaf, my name tied to warmth, not hunger. Children ran to the bakery, their voices bright. "Mr. Turner, can we have a roll?" I smiled, handing them bread, writing their joy, my heart steady. Jonathan's family struggled, his children's hunger a shadow of my own years ago. Mrs. Allen whispered, her voice soft. "They're eating less, Samuel." I nodded, my resolve firm, my hands baking more, my heart heavy but unwavering. The local paper ran a story. Farmer turned baker feeds town. Neighbors stopped me, their voices warm. "You're a blessing, Samuel." I wrote it down, their trust a lifeline, my work a testament to the man I was, not the father my children abandoned. I thought of Ruth, her gentle smile, our nights planning for our family. I wrote her name, a beacon of hope, my resolve unbroken. The town's support grew. Old friends who once pitied me bought my bread, their voices soft. We were wrong to turn away. I nodded, writing their words, my hands shaping loaves that fed the hungry, my heart carried by their faith. Jonathan and Emily's scorn faded, their voices weak to neighbors. Dad's stealing our light. I wrote it down, their shame fueling me, my bakery a fortress stronger than their betrayal. They thought they had buried me, their rejection final. They were wrong. I was Samuel Turner, a man who rose from hunger, my notebook a map of their cruelty, my heart anchored by those who saw me when my children turned away. The bakery hummed with life, the scent of warm bread filling the air as I handed out free rolls to children, their laughter a balm against the scars of Jonathan and Emily's betrayal. My hands, steady from years of farming and now baking, passed a loaf to a small boy, his voice bright. "Thank you, Mr. Turner." I nodded, my heart steady, my notebook tucked away, its pages heavy with the past but no longer needed. The town's praise had grown, their voices warm at the counter. "Samuel, your bread's a gift." Mr. Brooks stood beside me, his gruff voice proud. "This place is yours, Samuel." But the door creaked open, and Jonathan stepped in, his face gaunt, his two children clinging to his sides, their eyes wide with hunger. My hands froze on a loaf, my heart heavy with the memory of that winter night outside his gate, his voice cold. "This isn't your home anymore." Jonathan's eyes met mine, then dropped, his voice barely a whisper. "Dad, please. The kids need bread." His children, thin and shivering, looked up, their faces a mirror of my own hunger years ago. The crowd hushed, their eyes shifting between us, the town's whispers silenced by the weight of the moment. I stepped forward, my hands steady, and placed a warm roll in each child's hands, their fingers trembling as they clutched the bread. I faced Jonathan, my voice calm but carrying 71 years of love and pain. "You left me starving outside your door," I said, the bakery quiet, every ear on us. "You called me a burden, told me to fend for myself when I had nothing. Today I feed your children, not because you deserve my mercy, but because they don't deserve your mistakes." The crowd murmured, their eyes on Jonathan, his face pale, his pride crumbling like stale crust. Emily stood at the back, her tears falling, her silence broken by shame. "You thought I'd die out there," I continued, my voice firm. "But I rose not to shame you, but to show you. Bread doesn't betray. Only people do." Mrs. Allen nodded from the corner, her voice soft. "You're a better man than they deserve, Samuel." Mr. Brooks clapped my shoulder, his eyes kind. "This is your home." The town's respect swelled, their hands reaching for bread, their voices warm. "Samuel's our baker." Jonathan tried to speak, his voice shaky. "Dad, I'm sorry. I was wrong." Emily stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Please, Dad, we didn't mean it." I shook my head, my resolve steady, my heart heavy but unmoved. "Words don't fill an empty stomach," I said. "You closed your doors when I needed you most. Now I open mine for those who don't turn away." The crowd clapped, their hands raised, children holding their rolls high, their love a wave washing over me. A neighbor, once distant, approached, her voice soft. "We were wrong to judge you, Samuel." I nodded, writing their words in my mind. My notebook retired, its purpose served. The town's admiration was a shield, their faith a fortress against the pain of my children's betrayal. Jonathan's children ate, their eyes bright, unaware of their father's shame. I handed out more bread, my hands steady, my heart firm. Lily, a regular who spread my story, whispered, "You're feeding their souls, Samuel." I nodded, my resolve a quiet victory, their trust a balm for the wounds Jonathan and Emily left. The bakery buzzed again, the town's voices a chorus. "Samuel's bread holds us together." Jonathan stood back, his face drawn, his children fed by the hands he rejected. Emily's tears fell, her silence heavy, their regret too late. I thought of Ruth, her gentle smile, her faith in me. I had risen for her, for these children, for the man I was. The town told my story. Samuel, the baker who feeds us all. I walked behind the counter, my steps sure, their love a shield, carried by those who saw me when my children turned away. The bakery's warmth wrapped around me the morning after Jonathan's visit. The scent of fresh bread, a quiet victory over the cold night he left me starving outside his door. I needed dough, my hands steady, the town's cheers from that day still echoing in my heart. Neighbors crowded the counter, their voices warm. "Samuel, your bread's a gift to us all." Mr. Brooks nodded, his gruff smile wide. "You've made this bakery a home." I smiled, writing their words in my mind. My notebook retired, its pages heavy with betrayal but no longer needed. The town's faith had lifted me, their trust a shield against the pain of Jonathan and Emily's abandonment. Their hungry children fed by the hands they once turned away. The local paper spread my story. Farmer turned baker feeds town's heart. People I had not seen in years stopped by, their hands reaching for my rolls, their voices soft. "You're a blessing, Samuel." I nodded, my heart steady, not for their praise but for the purpose I had reclaimed. Jonathan's business was crumbling, his debts swallowing his wealth, his children going hungry. Emily's life unraveled too, her silence heavy with shame as her family struggled. Mrs. Allen whispered, her voice low, "They're regretting it now, Samuel." I kept baking, my hands shaping loaves, my resolve a flame fueled by the town, not their remorse. Jonathan came to the bakery one evening, his face gaunt, his voice low. "Dad, I was wrong," he said, his eyes on the floor. "I shouldn't have shut you out." I looked at him, my heart heavy but firm, my hands still dusted with flour. "You chose wealth over me," I said, my voice calm. "You left me starving when I had nothing." Emily followed days later, her tears falling, her voice trembling. "Please, Dad, let us fix this." I shook my head, my resolve steady. "I forgive you, but forgiveness doesn't erase hunger. You broke our bond when you closed your doors." They stood there, their regret a shadow, their apologies too late for the father they left to the cold. I poured my heart into the bakery, baking for children who came hungry, their smiles bright as I handed them warm rolls. "You're like a grandpa, Mr. Turner," a girl said, her voice warm as she bit into bread. I thought of Ruth, her gentle smile, her faith in me. Her memory lived in these acts, in the town that saw me. The community's respect grew, their voices warm. Samuel's our baker. I smiled, my heart lighter. Their trust a balm for the wounds Jonathan and Emily left. Neighbors brought their families, their voices soft. "You're feeding more than bodies, Samuel." I nodded, my work a quiet triumph, my life rebuilt by those who never turned away. I spoke at a town festival, my voice steady, the crowd quiet. "They left me to starve," I said, my eyes on the faces who lifted me. "But you gave me a home, a purpose. This bread is for you, for the hungry, for the truth." They clapped, their hands raised, their love a wave washing over me. Jonathan and Emily heard of my work, their visits rare, their words weak. "We're sorry, Dad," Jonathan said once, his voice faint. I nodded, my heart unmoved. "Sorry doesn't warm a cold night," I said. I thought of that winter, their slammed doors, and turned to the town, my steps sure, my life anchored by their faith. The town told my story. Samuel Turner, risen from hunger. I lived for the bakery, for the children, for Ruth's memory, my heart carried by their trust. Jonathan and Emily's regret could not undo their betrayal, their absence a scar that healed but lingered. I was Samuel Turner, a man who fought to feed himself and others, not for their tears, but for the community that stood by me, their love stronger than the family I lost. If your own children left you hungry and alone outside their door, what would you do? Would you rise to feed others, or let their betrayal break you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. My journey showed me that hunger can be filled with bread, but regret never satisfies. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to join me for more stories of heartbreak and the humanity that endures.